Hey, I'm Sheena Shuey. I'm a registered social worker and host of the 4Q podcast. I'm passionate about normalising, not pathologising life, and that's not easy. So each episode, I have amazing guests on to share the messy, beautiful ups and downs of life in 4 key questions with tips and tricks along the way. There are moments in life where you can embrace your story and understand that it's okay not to feel okay sometimes. So let's get into it. This is the 4Q podcast. Hi, Michelle Du Toit. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And yourself, Sheena? Lovely to be here.
I'm doing really well. Besides the fact that I have a bit of a respiratory thing going on at the moment. So apologies if you hear that, listeners, and yourself, Michelle, when we're talking. The doctors reassured me it'll go away eventually, but there's nothing I can do. There's no medication I can take. I'm not contagious. It's just this thing I've got to live with for a few weeks.
Oh. Well, good on you for checking it out.
So I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story with us today. So why don't we just jump in to the reflect? So for those listeners who don't know you, let me introduce you. So Michelle Du Toit is a Brisbane-based entrepreneur and blogger specializing in the best experiences for couples. She can tell you the best date ideas in Brisbane and the secrets to achieving your dream of experiencing an overwater bungalow in Bora Bora for less money than you might think. And I think that's definitely the dream. I know my husband's definitely mentioned to that before. She's on a mission to inspire and motivate couples to take time off of this busy life to really nurture themselves and their relationships by making the best of their free time. She's also the founder of the Romantic Explorers Community, a mobile-friendly directory that's making it easy for busy couples to find and share recommendations for date ideas around them with any budget. She's also the mum of the cutest fur baby named Toffee, and her love language is physical touch. So I am a words of affirmation person primary and then physical touch secondary. So, you speak my language.
I'm actually, yes, I'm the reverse of you. So that language thing is definitely my second.
Yeah. So I love everything that you said, like everything that's outlined in your bio. I know for those who've been following Savasana Collective in the 4Q podcast, excuse me, our relationships are so important, and it is one of the things that we neglect so quickly when life gets stressed and when life gets hectic. And so I think any activities that you can do to invest in the thing that's most important in a time-effective way, I think is so crucial. And I recently did a reel on this where, there was a Harvard study that showed that above all else, above physical health, gut health, all of those things, the number one predictor of longevity is healthy relationships. So
there you go.
And it's
brilliant.
so investing in them is so important. So I love that your mission is around making it easy for us to invest the time. So Michelle, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're about.
Oh, well, thank you, Sheena. First of all, I just want to say I'm truly honored to be here today as part of your beautiful vision to try and normalize, life for those that feel that they have lost themselves trying to balance work and life. So thank you. It's definitely so important, I think, as well, to remind people they're not alone in all these challenges in this extremely busy life. So it's lovely that your podcast provides a platform where we can share these stories and lessons we've learned ourselves to become, better and do better ourselves and make it more copable, I guess.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. That means a lot. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yes, the first thing you probably noticed about me is my South African accent. Very strong, I'm told, but yes, I was born there and then I migrated to Australia in 2011. And so I've always worked in graphic design roles, web design, marketing for many different agencies, and also as a freelancer. And that's where I've worked with, I counted the other day, I worked with over 100 different businesses. And through that, I've actually become completely on autopilot when it
Yeah.
comes to talking to people that have businesses. I just really love helping in that regard. But anyway, so my first job in Australia was in a corporate role as in a corporate company, as a marketing expert. And then from there, my partner and I started our very first side business.
Mhm.
And so for many people, that becomes a dream, but it's so much hard work. So yes, it was a very interesting part of my life, I'll say that much. But because migration is so expensive, we had to do that to get a bit of an extra income. And so also at that point, his hobby was building a 3D printer to help us with the manufacturing of the laser tag business phases. So it was very expensive to get some of the plastic parts from the supplier. So we hoped that we could 3D print it. And miraculously, this 3D printer that he was building actually ended up being one of the fastest in the world. Okay.
Wow.
So it was so nuts, because the first video he shared of this printer just all of a sudden flooded our inboxes with inquiries from all over the world while I was at work. And I literally saw these things flooding. And so then and there, all of a sudden this new business was born. Woo! So now we've got full-time jobs and a side business and another business. And the 3D printing and manufacturing business actually, it was a global phenomenon. People from all over the world were already interested in it before it was even born. So at that time was the first time where I very quickly learned how important community is.
Yeah.
Because we had no idea how to do that, right? So how to navigate, serving everybody around the world with very little business knowledge and so on and so on. So at the time that became too much to handle, of course. It was all too much. But we were so busy, we didn't even realize at the time that we had enough income now to quit our full-time jobs and just go for it, So that was the next move.
Yeah.
Because we were very nearly burnt out trying to balance it all. And so that's when I officially became a full-time entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so yes, and some of our biggest achievements happened at that time. So that's when we won our first business award, of course, with the community help. We won sponsorships, business accelerators. We made it to the top 10 Australian finalists in Startup World Cup and achieved a successful Indiegogo campaign and much more. So that's where I picked up most of my business knowledge, I guess, which I'm using today to help businesses, but more on that later. But that said, like many people, I have to tell you, it was not without challenges. It was with some insane ups and downs, definitely. And I think from that experience is where I genuinely formed a very soft spot for other business owners, because I know what they go through to keep their dream alive. So at the time, we were also traveling a lot to market these printers, and that's when I started my travel blog. So yes, and then the business was going well until COVID struck, and then it wasn't doing so well. And so that's kind of where things changed for me, and I had to make a decision if I'm going to basically follow go back to working for somebody else, or am I going to follow my dream of taking my travel blog further, and so on and so on. So that's kind of a bit where I'm at now. And yes, I can definitely relate to your listeners, in terms of being in a very overwhelming position a lot of the time. And I've just really been through, the deepest ends to try and make a balance of it all. So, and I have learned a lot along the way, and I hope to make a difference today in sharing what I've learned and how that can possibly help your listeners.
Oh, I think that's just a wonderful story. And I get a really clear visual of I can just imagine looking at my phone in the email inbox and just it blowing up, and just I can just
Oh, it was
imagine
insane.
how much that anxiety, that like when you had that the 3D printer and all these inquiries, like I can just visualize me doing that on my phone going, oh my gosh, how would I even manage that? So
Yes,
um
absolutely insane.
yeah, so what an experience, and definitely the ups and downs, and yeah, COVID's just really sort of knocked it for six for a lot of people. And
Yes,
um I think COVID has really been interesting because it has shown us that not only what our passions are, but our relationships are just so important, and have we been nurturing that prior to,
very much. Yes,
yeah, and so I love to get into this redefining, because I think, it's such a brave act to follow your passion. And I know in a lot of the one-on-one work that I do with people, it's really
yes,
about getting them to tune in to what they're passionate about and love. And sometimes you get this reaction of, Sheena, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Like, I don't know what brings me spark. And it's kind of this journey of, well, when you know yourself and you go through experiences and you learn about who you are and what your values are, that'll guide you in the right direction. So
yes,
even if you don't logically know what's going to, what lights you up or what career
definitely.
you want to get into, sometimes it's knowing yourself enough to get your intuition to guide you in the right direction. So I'm curious. So let's get to the second R, the second question of our 4Q, our 4 question podcast, which
Yes.
is, so it's the redefine. So this is about a pivotal moment or defining sort of experience in your life that really redefined a new experience or meaning in the way you see life. So tell me, what's your redefine kind of experience?
Well, Sheena, it's very, very true what you just said about, needing that sort of almost needing to slow down and listen to your gut feeling in terms of, what brings you that true spark. So, from what I told you just now, you can probably gather that I was so busy. I had, honestly, to other people, I look like this inspirational person. I've achieved so much in business. We've sold printers to over 21 countries. Everything looks on the surface like it's going gangbusters. But the reality is, in 2016, I I was driving back from just hosting a session on for one of my businesses, helping a customer. And I was feeling really good because I got extremely good feedback from the customer and so on. And the next minute, I'm not kidding you, my leg went numb. Okay, so, and I was driving. So I'm like, okay, well, this isn't okay. I better pull over. So I pulled over and I didn't think too much of it. I just phoned my husband and say, hey, I might just be a little while and just waiting for this sort of cramp or whatever it is to go away. And we were still laughing. Okay, so we're having this chat and he's just making jokes about, my foot loose and whatever. I can't remember
Yeah.
the conversation, but we were laughing so much. And the next moment I realized that wherever this cramp is going, it's actually flowing through my entire body. And it's almost like, it felt like I was walking through water and this
Mm.
the water level is rising, right? And as far as the water goes, anything below the water was going numb.
Wow.
And so I was like, I started realizing, okay, something is very, very wrong. And my first thought was I might have gotten bitten by a very dangerous spider or something, because that
Mhm.
has happened to me before, working in the bush and so on. But I thought, something, yeah, this is something really bad. And the conversation went all of a sudden from laughing to, hey, call the ambulance now. I'm not even
Oh,
joking. I was like,
goodness.
hey, I need you to phone the ambulance right now. Something's very, very wrong. And my husband was like, do you want me to come and fetch you? And I said, no, call the ambulance. Something's very wrong. And so, oh my gosh, I still remember it so vividly. Like, it's, yeah, it was the most traumatic experience for me, because so I'm trying to phone the ambulance myself as well. And I as this water level is rising, I noticed that I'm going to lose my voice. I'm going to lose my sight. I couldn't even keep myself upright anymore. I couldn't feel
Wow.
my hands to SMS for help, anything like that. So one of the last things I did, thinking this is the end,
Oh goodness.
was yes. No, I had to check in on my phone because I thought if I die today, people need to be able to find my body. Like that's what was going through my.
Wow.
And I checked in, and I have a Facebook group of just my closest friends, and I said, "Hey, something is very wrong. Quibus is calling the ambulance. Um, I'm just checking in here so you can find me if something bad happens." And I didn't include my parents in this, but my friends freaked out and started calling my parents. And so it just became a stress for everybody. It was extremely traumatic. So when I was on the phone with the ambulance, I couldn't even tell them where I was because my mouth went numb. So
Oh,
imagine the
goodness.
frustration of that. So you're trying to tell them the address and, nothing's coming out. It's like an absolute nightmare. And so by the time the ambulance came, I was half unconscious basically. And I just remember thinking, I hope I didn't lock my door because my arms were numb, so I couldn't unlock my door. And coming from South Africa, you always lock your door. The crime rate's quite high there. So it was a miracle I didn't lock my door that day. But yeah, so anyway, on the way to the ambulance into the ambulance, and then, yeah, they really helped me. And I came to in the hospital basically and faced the music, and it was so bad. So basically what had happened is my body shut down unexpectedly. So being somebody that works very hard and doing what I love, sometimes you don't realize how hard you work. And that's what I hope to warn people about in my story is that, we don't realize how close we get to our bodies just really unexpectedly shutting down. I was completely happy and feeling good just before this happened.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the experience put a lot of stress on my relationship and so on. And so for the next 2 weeks, I was stuck in bed and I couldn't even do basic tasks. Okay, so imagine, going from super efficient and all that entrepreneur to not being able to do anything but sit in bed and ask yourself the hard questions about why are we here and feeling as a failure as a wife. And, the self-judgment, just it's so harsh on you. So, and at the time, the only thing that cheered me up was looking at holiday pictures, of, just the travels that my husband and I shared. And what I want to highlight here is it wasn't my work achievements. I was literally in this time and space. It was like my life was flashing in front of my eyes, and I wasn't seeing what I was achieving at work and all that. I was seeing the genuine happy moments that I shared with my husband, So, and I guess, although it was such an awful experience, what happened here for me is I truly, truly found my passion and purpose. This is when I felt compelled to warn other couples about the dangers of, overworking and ignoring the need to look after yourself and your relationship in the busy life that we lead in. So I started my Facebook group, and I just shared any inspirational pics about date ideas and romantic travel. And amazingly, other people started sharing theirs, and this just lifted me up so much and like lit me up in ways that nothing else has. So, and that's where I've been following my joy, I guess.
Yeah.
And hoping to make a difference in a time where divorce rates are high, I guess.
Yeah.
So yes, it was a very interesting time, but I do feel it's brought better things out of it,
Wow, what an amazing story. I was on the edge of my seat, like cliffhanging, like what happened? So did you get an explanation as to what happened in your body, or were they just like you pushed yourself too much?
It was a combination of I got so busy that I completely forgot to look after myself basically, and my body just couldn't cope anymore. You know, I promise you, a few years ago, if you asked me something simple like, do you have dry hair or something like that, I didn't even have enough self-awareness to tell you if my hair is oily or, you know, I was just, you know, everything was just about work, and, you know, it was really a bit silly, but yeah, it's really made me have a hard look at myself and all the people I hurt through the experience. You know, my parents had already lost a child, so for them to hear that I was in hospital, had a near-death experience, was very hectic on them as well. So we don't realize the impacts of this as well.
Yeah, truly, truly. So I know a lot of people would be familiar with the book The Body Keeps Score. It's a trauma book, but it came back to #1 during COVID because everyone's like trying to deal with their trauma. And I think one of the most amazing things I find, again, in my one-on-one work or when I'm generally working with people, is the what we call somatoform disorders, or basically unexplained pains that can't be explained with physical, the doctors can't explain it. And so it's amazing how when we really start doing some work and getting deep, how all of a sudden, oh, my neck pain, it's starting to go, or like my back pain, like my unexplained back pain, like I don't, it's not as strong anymore, or even gut issues, things like that. Like people start to go, I'm finding myself having less issues. And I think that you're so right, is that you're sort of disconnected and from the body when you're too busy. And I guess that's what I really try to show people as well, is like anxiety, stress, depression, these body aches, they're not something wrong with you. They're actually your body and your brain healthily functioning and going, stop. I am giving you a warning signal that we're doing too much, and sometimes I think in this fix-it culture, oh, let's just take some medication, let's just put a band-aid on it. And actually it's like, no, listen to what your brain and your body are telling you. So I think that is a very, poignant example you've just given us. So let's jump into the third R, which is around, and the third question, which is around your redesign. Like after this sort of moment that you had, how did you redesign the way that you do things in everyday life? So, what tools did you use to redesign your life for the better?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I had 2 weeks where I could do nothing else but really take a good hard look at my life and what led me to be in hospital, not knowing if I'm going to be okay again or what the problem is and so on. So I just took the steps, but more importantly here, I took responsibility for my own happiness, because sometimes I feel in relationships we feel like our partners need to make us happy, but this was not just about my relationship not being perfect, but it was also like I had let myself down in some way, and I needed to take responsibility. Like, if I had maybe looked after myself a bit better, I wouldn't have found myself in that position. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was I went to a psychologist and learned a lot about anxiety, and that was prescribed to me by my doctor. So she taught me all these breathing techniques, which helped amazingly. Like, even I can tell you, even I'm a lot calmer coming into this podcast than I've been than I was maybe at that time when I was, still learning about things. But I've just learned not to get too much in the moment, but just enjoy it for what it is, So that's really nice. Also learned how to control the anxiety, like just being aware that it's not as bad as it feels, and it's not as it feels like where it's choking you up and things. It's really in your mind, and you just need to take those deep breaths to calm your mind and just, be present again and be in control. And then other things I realized, I was drinking too much soft drinks. I know anybody listening to this podcast knows that about me, and they'll be like, yeah, Michelle, we were waiting for you to wake up to that one. Of course, I had to learn to focus on sleeping better. So I've the app Calm. Yes, absolutely love that. Learned, the adult sleep stories just work fantastically. Also from there, I learned they've got such a good meditation for beginners program. That's made a big difference even to today. You know, that's one of the highest recommendations I have. I was one of those people who had a very different idea of what meditation was, and I'm so glad I didn't just, keep to my judgment of meditation and actually gave it a go. It's like my trainer says, it's like picking up ninja skills for life and everything you're dealing with. It's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the time I also found it hard to switch off and relax. I'm sure anybody who's got a very busy lifestyle can relate to that. So I took active steps to turn my home into a romantic escape. A
Beautiful.
place where I could relax and I didn't have to escape from. So, I just got a little hot tub for us because I knew that was something that relaxed me. I also joined a wonderful gym for group training, went back to church. So really focused in on what makes me happy and makes me feel like a whole person. So yes, and then relationship-wise, we set boundaries not to always talk about business.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely lost, our connection there. We've implemented regular date nights, and of course now with my community, they also sort of, it's that accountability where I have to, set an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 5 love languages that you mentioned earlier, that has been the biggest mind, that's really been the biggest. Made the biggest change to our relationship, I guess, because we actually started implementing that on a weekly basis, where we ask each other, what can I do for you this week that
Mm-hmm.
will make you feel most loved? So it's not just reading the book and leaving it there. It really makes the biggest difference to ask each other on a regular basis what you can do. I also started looking at the Love Club podcast by Kate Robinson, which is one that I really love because it's real life couple conversations. Learned a lot about, how other couples deal with common relationship problems. I also found a super app for busy couples where you can learn about relationship. It's called Paired. I highly recommend that. I actually did a giveaway on my Instagram page for that as well. And then also just, yes, focused on growing close to God again,
Mm-hmm.
which was important to me. If you're a believer, you would probably understand that, being the creator, God created relationships, and you'll be amazed how your relationship and your life can change if you have a relationship with him first, the creator of relationships. It makes so much sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think those things helped immensely.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and we'll get to, I'm curious about how you landed on Romantic Explorers as the business, but and I think even for those who aren't sort of in religion, if they have spiritual beliefs, I think whatever you call it, whether you call it God, whether you call it the
Yes,
universe, whether you call it just this being, or whether even you don't call it something, but you just have a sense of this connectedness with the world. I think when we're connected with ourselves and have this sense of connection with the world around us, our relationships do feel more meaningful. And I think when we tune into ourselves and we sort of manage those anxieties and become more calm, we become very clear of what we will accept and won't accept in our relationships or friendships or whatever it might be, because time and energy is precious, so we don't have time to
definitely.
muck around with things. So I think, yeah, all of what you're saying is so amazing. And I'm just so curious as to how, you went from 3D printing to a Romantic Explorer app. So is that coming up now in the real life?
I
Tell
can
us about.
explain that.
Yeah.
So basically what happened is, so we were very actively working in the 3D printing business. I'm still the co-founder of the business and actively pursuing that. And I found, my own, I guess, space there, because sometimes, being that my husband's an inventor, I had to kind of carve out my little own space in that business and really ask, is this what I want to do with my life? I didn't just jump in,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is important. You need to follow your own happiness as well and not just get sucked into helping everybody else, But yeah, I was happy being the co-founder of the businesses and then doing my blog on the side. But then when COVID struck, things changed a lot. The businesses weren't doing so well. And then that's when I had to make a decision. Am I going to now work for somebody else in, marketing role, which I can easily do? Or am I going to now try and push for my own dream and actually take my blog to the next level, where I can work with businesses that provide couples the best experiences and, make a difference there? And so lucky for me, my dad, we're very close, and I discussed this all with him, and he actually came on board as a sponsor. He sponsored for me to go to the Travel Bootcamp Accelerator or join it. Sorry, it's virtual. Yeah, to join that. And yes, I have to say that has again pushed me so much further in terms of learning about mindset and, following your dreams and how to make it all possible. So I'm now, in terms of realign and what life is now and my current joy, I can honestly say I'm now more appreciative and more present to the fact that my partner and I have created a flexible lifestyle where we can work and play together full time. I think we've been doing it for a while, but we just haven't been present enough to really appreciate that we do have success right now. Yes, we're chasing big dreams, the $1 million business and all that, but at the same time, we do have that happiness now. We have a choice to feel that joy of how far we've come right now. And yes, things aren't perfect and they don't have to be. So
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I love that, we're building towards and kind of supporting each other to now achieve our individual ideas and continued success of making a difference in the world. So how that looks is I support him in his invention with the manufacturing business, but now he's come on board as a videographer for my business.
Yeah.
Of helping the businesses that serve couples. So we're still actively making progress in creating a happy and healthier lifestyle for ourselves while pursuing all of this. And I've genuinely, I have experienced so many breakthroughs personally and professionally while working with the Travel Bootcamp. So if you've never heard of the program, it's hosted by 3 of the most inspirational women you can ever meet. Like, I'm not even joking. The one is, for instance, Kate Rich. She's such a phenomenal business coach. She's unreal, and she can literally teach you to sell ice to an Eskimo while you're fulfilling your dream of traveling to Alaska. She's absolutely insane in that regard. So good at what she does. And then Lauren Paul, she's Australia's first Instagrammer. She's been paid to travel the world. So that to me is my ultimate dream, of course, and for many others, I'm sure. But at the same time, she's one of the kindest people you can ever meet. So not only am I learning, how to get into travel, become a better travel blogger and helping business, but I'm also learning about kindness from her in ways that I wouldn't have thought. And then Georgia Rickard, she's one of the most successful travel writers. I can go on, about this lady, but I'm sure you get the picture. So, and learning from them has honestly been the happiest time of my life, because I am genuinely now, I feel like I found my purpose, and, it's not just supporting my husband, but it's also really now taking steps, getting support in finding how I can genuinely, push my own business a bit further. So that's just been excellent. So just to highlight a few things that I've learned from them that I haven't really known, been so good at before, is just learning to structure my day so I can have better work-life balance. But also I've implemented little charts to keep me accountable for things I want to achieve. They've really helped me to become a lot more self-aware and recognize when I'm just starting to feel down, so I can catch myself before I go completely down to what they call the basement, which is a lot harder to get out of. And I'm sure, anybody who gets overwhelmed now and again would know, once you get to a point where you're so low that it can sometimes take you days to recover. And so that can really hold you back. So I'm so happy that I've been taught how to deal with that, because I've become so much more resilient from this experience. I also just learned to take time to celebrate the small things, like I said before earlier. I think I was so caught in the busyness, I didn't give myself any credit for what I've already achieved or any joy in where I am at now. It was just always chase the dream, and sometimes not even my own dream, like putting everybody else first, pouring from an empty cup while not looking after myself at all. So yes, just I think my general advice from everything I've experienced is looking after your mindset in a relationship is just as important as being the best at work, and definitely surround yourself with a supportive community. Find your tribe. There are people who know what to do, what you want to do. They really do have the keys to the universe, And I've noticed that in your own program that you're launching at the moment, that accountability that you're offering in a group, that's fantastic. Like really, that makes the biggest difference. So and just a reminder that each of us have a unique gift of our own to share. I could have easily gone and just forever supported my husband's invention and all his dreams, but you cannot let your own dreams and own gift to the world get lost. And I definitely needed people to see me for my own gifts and my own what I can bring to the world. So that's been amazing. Yeah, and then just the funny thing is we, in this busy world, we all want the best relationships in life. But if we're honest with ourselves, I think a lot of us aren't really willing or putting in the work to work for it, and that's super important. How can we expect to have these ideal relationships if we don't even make the time for date night, or try to? So yeah, I think as a relationship blogger, I would like to, suggest, please think about what your relationship needs at the time and find the best date for it. So for instance, and it doesn't have to cost much, I get this excuse like, oh, we don't have money. Sometimes the excuse of, again, what my coaches taught me, sometimes the excuse of I don't have money is a very self-sabotaging excuse. Instead of thinking I don't have money, you'd rather think, well, what can I do to make this happen? And so, as I said, with date ideas, it doesn't always have to be expensive. I've just got this directory now where you can sort through date ideas of any budget. And I just think, but not just go on dates, because you need that connection. So think about what your relationship needs. So if you find, life has just become a little bit too serious, maybe do a fun date. Like I recently shared one where you can ride an inflatable unicorn into the sunset.
That sounds fun.
In the pool. So, and people think, oh, I don't have a pool, but, there's all sorts of things that I share on my blog where you can get to the closest pool. Don't forget public pools. Don't forget the website Swimply. You can now rent a pool. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Somebody else's pool. Or if you need some romance, how to set up candlelight picnic by the sunset. For some people find that easy, some people don't. So there's, information on how to do that. I can tell you my partner, he was very much in the sort of mind space of he's not good at planning dates. But I've implemented things and I've got tips now. So I've put all sorts of picnic items in the cupboard, and I've said to him, they're all there. All you have to do one day is surprise me and just use everything in the cupboard. So there's definitely ways to help your husband become a more romantic lover as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, a lot of the people that I work with, as we've been speaking about, I think I have not met a person in the last 5 years who's like, oh, I'm not busy. I've got plenty of time on my hands. Like everyone is busy, everyone's time poor. So
So
again,
true.
it's being flexible around, okay, I work with a lot of parents and I'm a parent myself. So, when you've got a kid, things can be interesting. So,
Of course.
maybe you can't get babysitting in the evening, but you can babysit for a couple of hours in the morning, do a date breakfast, do a date lunch. It doesn't always, have to be date night as such. And exactly what you're
Yes.
saying, like sometimes a date can be at home. I know that
Yes.
ideally we'd love to just get out and do something, but sometimes if you're not able to, like you can't get a babysitter or whatever, exactly the things you're saying, like have a picnic in the backyard, or it's just about the connection. It's not so much the doing of the thing, but it's filling up the cup of your relationship. Like, do we need to fill
Yes.
up on intimacy? Do we need to fill up on fun? Do we need to fill up on communication? Like basing, exactly as you're saying, basing the date around what are we missing? Like, what do we
Yes.
need, or what are we craving? Like, remember when we used to just watch movies together? Like it's whatever you're feeling you need, follow that.
Yes.
Um, so Michelle, I love all of this. I love what you do. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you and what you're doing?
Or you can connect with me on Instagram at Romantic Explorers, or our Facebook community, Romantic Explorers as well. And that's also a space where you can come and find some inspiration for those date nights that you're struggling with, or, ask some advice from our community. You don't have to, again, go at it alone. There's plenty of information around.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a joy having you. I love talking about relationships, so I could talk about this all day. So,
Me
but
too.
I love, I guess this is a bit of a recap. Like, I love that you said, listen to your body, because when we get so busy, we forget the body cues, and your body will catch up. And I think that's so
Definitely.
important. I think tuning into yourself so you can tune into your partner and the world around you, like being connected spiritually, religiously, however it is, because that fills your love up. I think that's really good.
Yes.
Um, as you mentioned as well, like seeing coaches and psychologists and all of that, like
Absolutely.
personal growth happens the fastest in the relational space. I always tell people that, like, of course,
Mm.
there's things you can do on your own, no doubt. But
Yeah.
when you have another person to bounce that back off, or to learn from, or to even just give you the path of, like, this is a path that's clear for you, and it just lays it
Mm.
out for you, it just makes life so much easier than trying to figure it out on your own, which I think
Definitely.
your story just reflects so much. And yeah,
Thank
and of
you.
course, the number one thing is invest in your relationships. You can't think to
Yes.
yourself, I'm magically going to have an amazing relationship, I'm going to be an
Yes.
amazing parent, if you don't actually make the time to do it, right? Or like learn about
Absolutely.
it or whatever. So I think there's so many good takeaways. So it's been such a pleasure to have you, and I can't wait to share this with everyone. And yeah, we'll connect again soon.
Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.
You too.